Hi, it's Peggy at Headshots by Peggy, and today I'm going to do something completely different. I put together a highlight reel for you of just a few of the amazing guests that I've had come on this vlog. Now, as you know, I've had tons and tons of amazing guests that have given you amazing information, tips, and taught you lots of little tricks. Well, hopefully these little highlights will jog your memory and remind you of all the great things you've learned on this vlog over the last couple of years. I hope you enjoy this. Make sure that you share this, leave me tons of comments, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy! Today, the award-winning Merrick McCartha is going to co-host with me as we have the legendary Bill Duke with us. He's an actor, director, writer, poet. You've been in the industry for a while, and I like the one thing that you said towards the end of your book, that we're not in the film industry anymore, we're in the media industry, and I think it's important that people realize that you know, they need to understand what it is that's going on in the industry right now.
Well, you know, as I say, many times young people come into this industry with passion. There's nothing wrong with passion, right. And I think we have to have it because we're very fortunate we make a living at, you know, what we want to do with our lives, and many times that doesn't happen. But to keep up with the paradigm shift in our industry from a business perspective, I think is as equally important as our passion. And we've gone from film and television to media. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, cell phone apps. We're talking about online. We're talking about the fact that Netflix and Amazon are not TV channels, but they're getting Emmys, and that they're showing their movies in theaters and on their networks. And I think they're spending a few $1 billion this year on content. So I think we have to be understanding of that.
So that's another question too, is as a director, you have to sort of make the decision, you want to trust your actors to where you want them to do the scene and you want to work around capturing that scene. Is that kind of it, or is it you have a scene in mind?
Well, I have a vision in mind of how I want it to go, as long as they're comfortable within that context. Okay. I never want to do something that makes the actor uncomfortable to the degree where his performance is impacted. Mm-hmm. Because he's not giving his 1,000%. He has to be, or she has to be comfortable with what we're doing. Because it's, you know, it's a collaboration. It's not, maybe directing is the wrong term, because you are in charge of the production. Mm-hmm. But it's a collaboration because if you have an idea and you're rehearsing in pre-production and the actor comes up with something that you did not think of, you have to, you know something, that tells a story better than what I had. My ego doesn't get in the way and say, well, no, you got to do it like this. That's, I think there's something a little insane about that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's surrendering to the creative process. Yeah. I admire actors because I don't think it shouldn't be called acting. It should be called being, the art of being.
So what kind of advice do you have for young actors starting out or wanting to start out?
Learn the craft of acting, number one. Mm-hmm. It's a craft. It's a craft.
Okay, I'm Blair Hickey. I'm an actor, Brian Wolfe.
Yes, indeed.
Professional relationships.
This is a town built on professional relationships. This is an industry built on professional relationships. And actors spend so little of their time fostering, building, supporting, enhancing the professional relationships that they have. Yeah. Exactly. And instead, they just want to get an audition, go to a random stranger, and hope that random stranger is going to give them a job. That's the worst way to do it.
Yeah. I say this all the time. We live in a town where it matters who you know, and yet most actors suck at networking.
Yeah.
And this is a city built on networking.
And I have a little kernel of genius that made a huge difference for me in my personal life, and it's one of the things that I like to try to share with people. I can do it now, or we can hold it till later, whatever you want to do. But but it changes the way you think about networking, right? Because a lot of people don't want to do networking because it's skeevy.
They think it's right. They feel it feels like you're taking, and
there's a secret that that if you think about it in a different way, it solves all of that problems, and it actually puts you in a much better position to approach this industry. So it's something we try to tell people all the time. Without further ado, the only piece of valuable information, which camera do I look at? The only piece of valuable information I have to share. You're doing it backwards. Relationships start with what can I do for you?
Exactly.
The best relationships are relationships that have a give and take. And part of that is starting with give. So you start with what can I do for you? What do I bring as a professional in this town? What attributes do I have? What are the features that I can, what are the skills that I have? What are the things I'm really good at? How can I make your life better today? And if you start from that perspective, now it's not who can I find that I can latch on to and leech the life out of them. Now it's who can I find that I can do something good for them. And ultimately, what that does is it gets people on your side. Now they want to help you instead of have to help you.
Figure out who am I as a storyteller?
Right.
What stories do I tell? I think sometimes even before I walk in the room, like you walk in the room and like right in front of you is this energy thing, you know, that like is, and some casting directors will say they will cast a part like the second an actor walks in the door and be like, yep, or nope. And like even before they start talking, right? So what is that thing that I bring into a room, and then how do I lean into that and sell it? So I talk to my photographer and say, here's the story I want to tell. And then I do the slate shots that just reinforce that story. Because the thing that we've learned is if you go through and you look at submissions from a casting director's point of view, first of all, they know 75% of the people they already know. But for the people they don't know who they're going to bring in, they go through this process of basically it boils down to this. It's like, well, this stranger, do I give this stranger one of my slots? Because I don't know them. If they come in the door and they're not who I thought they were, they tell a different story,
they
look
like
different, their energy's different. Not only have they wasted my time, because I can't use them here, it doesn't matter how talented they are, but they've also taken one of the slots I could have given to somebody I know who I know could have done the job.
If you could go back, what would you do different?
A lot. I do everything differently. And that's what I've really learned is I would do it the other way around. Right. So when I started, it was all about the audition and getting the job and the next line on the resume, and marketing was an afterthought. And so now, if I could flip those around, I would spend all my time figuring out who I was as an artist, who am I as a storyteller, and then what people in town are telling the same story, who needs me the most, and then trying to build those relationships with them over time, and the auditions will come. And that sort of flip, that getting rid of this hierarchy where the casting director is this mystical gatekeeper person, and I'm the wannabe, which is so hard. And, going into the room that way, you just want to please them. They want you to like you. And that hierarchy has to go away. It has to be peer to peer. It has to be storyteller to storyteller. And going into the room with, first of all, being appreciative, thank you for this opportunity because you're one of 2%, or whatever it is.
It's a big deal. You get an audition, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. So be able to thank you for this opportunity. Now let me offer you my story.
Today we are with Laura Gardner, and we are going to have a blast.
There's also a part of people that there's a fear and a shame about bringing parts of us out that we haven't articulated.
Right.
And so Merrick is an amazing human being who has begun to give himself permission to really stand up for himself in a way that he's not accustomed to. And out of that, there has been an opening for him of heart and of strength that in his work that has come out of him really standing up for himself. And out of what happens in the class sometimes really opens up what happens in our lives, and what happens in our lives doesn't in the work. So it's both, and it doesn't mean that you have to, go to therapy for 40,000 years, although I, for one, am an enormous proponent for therapy or 12-step programs, and I think that it's a mix of using oneself as well as using imagination. It's a blend of everything. But I do know that the older I get and the more life experience I have, the more I can identify with whatever characters that I play. Whatever I can, but as actors have to do, they say in order to have self-esteem, do esteemable acts. And it's, actors, I've heard it said that it's the arrogant doormat syndrome. I'm a horrible person, but I deserve to be a star now. And in order to be an artist, we need to be open and vulnerable. And there are a couple of books I really highly recommend. One is Carol Rosenfeld's Acting and Living in Discovery, which is, I think I probably recommended it the last time I was here, which is a mixture of Uta Hagen's A Challenge for the Actor and Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And it will give you exercises to really explore who you are as well as who you're discovering in the role. Because we can't just live in the vacuum of, when am I going to get the next job? And the importance of finding work as well as life activities that build us up. And I'm really lucky, and so are you, that we found things to do that we don't go to an office and feel horrible about ourselves in order to survive. But there were days in New York that I was waitressing and I hated it, but there were days I found a waitressing job that I enjoyed. The difference between the restaurants I found to work at that I was with friends that I enjoyed, or a singing waitress that was fun, or a place that I was doing marketing and it was awful. So if you need to make money, to find a place that you can make money that doesn't eat your soul.
And today I have Frank Collison with me.
So what do you think? What do you think is the making or breaking? I mean, is it luck? Is it dedication? Is it the ability to, ignore reason and keep following your heart? I liked what you said earlier, diversity, not just focusing, but, doing a lot of things in life. I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, that phrase, get a life.
Yeah.
Usually people say it when you're interfering with them. They say, get a life, like leave me alone. But when I say get a life, I mean have an active life that I don't define myself as, people say, what do you do? I say, well, I'm an actor. But I don't define myself. That's not all I am. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a gardener, I'm a passing carpenter. I'm okay at carpentry. I'm a backpacker and a hiker, a traveler. But to answer your question, well, first of all, training. But training meets, and I don't remember the quote exactly, but it's training meets opportunity. So untrained person meets opportunity, nothing happens. Trained person doesn't meet opportunity, nothing happens. So that's the luck part in the sense of you begin to develop. I just feel in this town, in Los Angeles, that you demonstrate that you are useful to people. I consider myself a utility player. I've never played a leading role in a film, but I've worked and I've been able to, support myself and raise a family on an actor's salary, which is, pretty good.
Yeah. And today we have Carlisle Keene with us, and we are going to have a blast today.
Well, I think that you need to do everything that you can in this market now. Have, not only the picture and resume and the reel and the voice. A lot of actors, which is interesting that, that we're here today, don't have a voice tape. They just don't have it. They don't think about doing it. And yes, the market is, jobs that I would have gotten, 10 years ago are now going to stars.
Right.
And, because they want that recognizable voice behind the character. There's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. And, for example, and I know a bunch of people at the theater are doing them, Netflix is buying all of these foreign series. They're all being dubbed into English.
And that's another point thing about this too, is this is the time you should have been figuring out what your casting type is, where you're strongest, because those are the casting types that you want to present in your headshots. So when you go to get your headshots and your photographer, like Peggy, says, "Hey, okay, great, let's go over what you need for your looks. What's going to be your looks you're trying to accomplish?" And a lot of people come into her and have no idea.
I want a smiley one and a serious
yeah,
one. That's
I want a
not a
commercial
look.
one and I want a theatrical one. Yeah, that's awesome.
10 years ago, you wanted a strong theatrical and you wanted a strong
commercial headshot, but that's not industry standard anymore. That's not how the trends of
because
headshots
things
are.
digital now.
They people are submitting very specific typed headshots. Not just, hey, this is my happy commercial and this is my serious theatrical, but really digging deep and, hey, this is my goofy dad, this is my attorney, this is my...
And what's important is these are your strong character types. Yeah, I'd like to play The Rock, the wrestler. No, I'm not big enough yet, but... so I'm not going to make a headshot of myself trying to look like that. I mean, you had a client that come in and want something that was not his type at all, right? It was... a guy, he was like this total surfer guy.
Yeah, and he wanted to be like a badass or a thug, and he was pretty. He had blonde curls, a big smile, big old blue eyes.
Now again, this is up to you, but from experience and talking to casting professionals and agents, you want to put yourself out there where you're strongest. Because even if you want that role and you're not really strong in it, if you get picked to go into audition for that role, you're going to go with people that are strongest in it, and you're going to waste the casting director's time, you're going to waste your agent's time, and you're going to waste your time.
So today, A. Martinez is with us, and you have seen him over the years. He's a veteran actor. You've done a lot of work.
I've been around a long time, yeah. If you stick around, then you end up doing
a lot of work.
Right.
So you've seen him in Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, movies like Pow Wow Highway. That's actually the first time I saw you.
Oh, yeah.
Is that movie?
That's a good one, yeah.
Recently in the Netflix series Longmire.
Longmire, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows. So
Mine
we
too.
totally binged on that one. Just start off by telling us how was it like when you started?
Well, it's funny. And I don't know if this is real. It could just be my own paranoia when I was young. But I think it's a nicer place. The industry is a nicer place to conduct a career now than it used to be. When I was starting off, I had a sense that there was a lot of actors. I came across a few of them who sort of thought of the process as a competition. Like, I'm going to win this scene. When you're working with somebody that sort of starts to seem like, in crucial moments, they have the opposite of your back. It's like, they're just like, I work with people, you just think, wow, seriously, dude, you waited until this moment of my close-up to pull that? What was that, right?
Wow.
And I could be completely making this up, but I don't think so. And I think over the years, obviously I started in for seriously in 1968, so a lot of years have gone by, and there's been a lot of shift in the culture in what I like to think is a positive direction, and I think it's manifested.
You're like 3 years old when you started then.
Oh yeah. I know, you did that math quick. Damn, the computer. Yeah. That's what I think. What do you ever thought about that?
As far as starting out, working now, it's a lot of actors I think are so caught up in the audition process, and working on set is, it's nice. I guess maybe back then I don't have the experiences of people trying to scene steal, like you might have gone through. But yeah, everyone kind of does their thing, and we're all kind of get along once we're there, because I think our attitude is, once we're on set, we book the job. So we're like, hey, it's cool. Let's hang out. Let's have fun. Let's just make this a great scene. That's what our goal is. Crazier auditions that you've done that was just kind of out there, like, wow.
I'll say one thing. Among the worst auditions I ever did, and I confess, I blew it. I didn't pay close enough attention to my email. So suddenly there was this audition, and it was like in an hour, and it's like, what an idiot. And I know there'd been talk that maybe something was going to happen. So I decided I'm going to go for it, even though I'm not ready.
Right.
Usually I spend literally, the minute I get a script for an audition, I pretty much devote every waking moment to it until I go in there. I leave no stone unturned, except that time there was no time to do anything. So I think, well, I kind of got what it's like, and I'll go in there and I'll get the gist of it, and then I'll just riff, right? And I went in there and I just, in my estimation, humiliated myself. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, where you get, you start to go, okay, that didn't work, but you're in it, and so the minute you start saying things like that didn't work,
then your whole
it's like going to go downhill from then. And I was just, so mortified. I don't think I apologized, but I felt just bereft. And I remember I went to the West Side Pavilion to meet my family to see a movie, and I remember like my manager called me, and I was sitting in my pickup truck on the street, and he says, how'd it go? I go, it was among the worst experiences of my professional life. And he's just like quiet, and I go, I'm sorry, man. And I didn't confess that it was because I wasn't prepared. I just said, yeah, I just fell all over myself. And he goes, that's so weird because they just called and gave you the job. Oh yeah, I auditioned, and I really love to audition. So to me, that's like I finally lost my horrible existential pain over this career when I started to realize that basically my career occurs in auditions. That's where I do the bulk of my work, right? I mean, you're in these little rooms just because it's not a whole massive giant audience. It's still people who are giving you their attention.
Yeah, and that's a great point because I find other up-and-coming actors that approach me asking questions, one of their biggest fears is auditions. And they hate auditions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you gotta love the audition.
You gotta love the audition.
Well, you get to do what you love.
Yeah.
You get to go act.
Even
if it's a small audience, you still get to perfect. You get to be in front of people. You get to,
And then when you do get a job, it's like, this isn't the first time in a long time that you've actually acted.
Today we have Sheldon Candis with us. He's an actor, he's a writer, a producer, and a director.
Yes.
Big time director now.
Thankful to be working. And you just want them to see you.
Right.
But a big part of who you are is your art, is your work. And so it's the moment that I make my first film, the moment I make Love, that's the moment that John says, I get a phone call. I answer, it's like this random number, and it's Sheldon, it's John. And I'm like, John who?
John who?
He's like, John Singleton, fool. I'm like, oh, John, as if you call me every day. But it was one of the best phone calls I've ever gotten, where he says, hey man, I'm down in Miami. I just left the AMC theater. I watched your movie. It's beautiful.
Wow.
And even talking about it right now, I still get a chill because to me, that's something I always hold on to in my relationship with John. This is one thing that I always pass along, by being an actor on that side of the camera and then being a director behind the table and behind the lens. Regardless if you get the job or not, just be unforgettable in the room.
Right. Be
unforgettable in the room. Even if you get it or not, that goes a very, very long way. That you're this performer, you're this artist, that, hey, you may not be right for a role, but man, that guy, that woman, she came in this room and set it on fire. And I think that because we're so conditioned to the audition is the means to get the job, I think a lot of actors forget that, that's your opportunity to perform for the day.
Exactly.
That's your audience for the day.
You get to do what you love today. You get to go in there and you get to give it all.
To give it all, and think about it in terms of, I'm here to set this room on fire. I'm here to give the most genuine portrayal of the human condition possible and leave everything else. I always say focus on what you can control. There's so much being an actor, you have no control over it. So when you leave the room, throw the sides away. Just, be very, very mindful of your mental health and your well-being going through this journey.
Peggy, and today we have Stephen Tobolowsky with us.
We aren't forged by our goals and dreams and desires. We are forged by our obstacles. It is our difficulties that make us who we are. And so we need to cherish our difficulties.
I agree with that. I think that if you can't handle an obstacle, you're not going to be able to handle success, because success
is an obstacle.
It will be your obstacle.
Well, success is an obstacle. Success, and I've had limited success, but I've had more success in my life than I ever expected. I mean, I still have a career.
You are everywhere.
I still have a career, but success is an obstacle because it separates you from the world. The world is constantly living in this boiling pot of discomfort and dissatisfaction and dreams not coming true. And when they see someone who is successful, there is a great deal of jealousy and envy, and you become separated. You can't really, you know, I learned early on that when another actor says, "So what are you working on?" Never say anything. Say, "Well, you know, just same old, because other actors just don't want to hear if you have good things happening to you. Mary Curtis was our director, and she brought in this young, hot actor in Dallas named David Nichols to coach us.
Wow.
And David Nichols at this time was one of the stars in Dallas, and he came in to direct our scenes, and he took me aside saying, "You need to learn some comic technique," because I was very energetic, but he said, "You need to pause, and you need to, you know, build and stop. And then move on." And he said, "And always pace things up. Pacing things up always builds comedy." And so I got my first lessons in comedy technique from David Nichols. So this is the fourth time now I am seeing David. I'm out there, a crowd of 500 people, David, nervous as a jackrabbit, and they're ready to go action. And I look, and David Nichols is in the crowd, and he looks at me and goes, well, you aim for truthfulness instead of honesty. I had a friend of mine who said that there's a difference between honesty and truth. That honesty you could use as a bludgeon to hit somebody over the head with, like, "Well, I remember when you said this," boom, "and I remember when you said this," honestly. But you're ignoring the truth of who this person is, of what you know with the truth. And he says, once you tell the truth about something, nothing is the same.
Because the truth is who a person really is, not a situation that happened or something.
And going back to
truth, that's good.
Going back to the first date idea, a lot of people ask me, do you get a lot of jobs now where you're offered the job?
Yeah.
Or
do you still
audition? And I go, well, occasionally I get offers, but I prefer an audition. And you just gave me the reason why, is because when you are given the job, as opposed to auditioning, it's like an arranged marriage.
Right.
You have no idea who you're really getting into the sack with, you know, and you don't. When you are given a part by a producer, someone is doing someone a favor. To say, like, well, I get Tobolowsky, but you get this. So you are part of this board piece. And so the other people have not signed off on you. And when you are given jobs is when you get fired. But this is what I tell people in my class now, and I have a couple of classes when I have time to teach them, is that for me, the best way to think about auditions is that there is only one time in which you will for sure play this part.
And that's today.
That's the audition. And that's the one time you have to let that little thing inside of you that wants to sing and dance and be free and laugh and shout, to let that little voice of that character be free. And don't worry about these people. Worry about that little person, making that little person come to life.